Alright, so I'm going to start up. This is, I just literally made this a couple minutes ago. I've got a schedule for the rest of the semester. You'll notice we're in week 5, so we're going to go over chapter 12 this week. We're going to do a program today and lecture on Thursday. And next week we'll do a program on chapter 13 and then a lecture on chapter 13 Tuesday and Thursday. Another week of lab. Then we're going to get into chapter 14, which is applets, spend a week on that. Have a week of lab, which puts us right near the end of October, which means we should have, if I counted right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks to do Android, which is good. All right, that'll give us a good start on it. Okay, we'll be able to create at least probably, I would say, a minimum of 3 projects in the Android. Okay, well, the first one will be real simple, but we'll create a couple other ones that'll be a little bit more complex. All right, so again, that's out there if you care. And as I just mentioned, so I'm going to do the same thing. I've already got the thing built, but I'm going to do a new Java project. Oh, just so you know this, because somebody had asked me this, if you go File, if all of you look at this, you don't have to do it, but if you go File and you say Switch Workspace, that will permanently switch your workspace. See what I'm saying? So if yours is still set to C:\users\A Sanchez, you don't want that. Alright, I'd recommend creating a folder right in your desktop and calling it Java or something like that, and then do a switch workspace, click on Other, and have it be on your desktop Java. Then everything will be saved there from then on. But I did that, and as soon as I did, whenever I do a file, new Java project, that's where it defaults to. Yes. I'd recommend opening it up. I'd recommend opening it up in like Notepad++ or something and copying it over into Eclipse. Because again, weird things happen. I've tried doing that and I've tried moving stuff over, etc., and it just seems like it doesn't work very well. All you need is no. Okay, there's 2 ways you can do that. First way is you can literally just drag the whole folder that you end up creating, just drag that on your H drive. I can work with it like that. You can do the same. They can do the same thing. No, what I'm saying is, so for instance, right now, if I wanted this Joes, I've already got the completed program right here. But if I wanted that, then I would just come out to Java, and underneath that there's Joes. I would just grab that whole folder and copy it right to the H drive. Now, for them to be able to open it, then they're either going to have to switch their workspace to the H drive or copy it over someplace else. Okay. All right. So again, File. You know the drill by now. New Java project. Again, I'm going to call this Joes. Please do not put an apostrophe in there. All right. Joes Auto 1 right there. And there's my location is correct. So I'm just going to click. I didn't really need the next, but that's fine. So finish. So there's Joes Auto 1. All right. I'm going to again right mouse click on it, choose new, go down to package, create my package. Click finish. So now I've got the package. Right mouse click on there. I'm going to choose class. I'll just do them one class at a time. The first class that we create, we're just going to call this Joes Automotive. No spaces or anything. And we will have a main in there. Okay, so I'll leave that up there for just a second. You're going to do a bit of typing today, so you've kind of been warned. But it'll help for Thursday when we go over the stuff for you to have this done first, I believe. You'll do a lot less typing next week when we build this by drag and drop. Everybody has that? Yes? Okay. So, there's the first one. Now, if you want to, because sometimes people like to create all their stuff at once, and it really doesn't matter, but I am going to create two other classes just so you see them. You don't have to do it now. You can do it later. But I'm going to come in and create another new class that will not have a main. And the first one will be called routine panel. And it's real nice because the second one's going to be called non-routine panel. Okay, so it'll make it real easy as far as creating these. So there's routine panel. Again, no main on there. Click finish. Right mouse click on it one more time. New class. Non-routine panel. Same stuff. All right. Get all that in there. Click finish. And now all three of the classes are in there. Now there's not anything in any of them yet, but at least they've got the package statement and the class declaration. So I'm going to head back to my Joes Automotive. And as I mentioned, if you do go out to the P drive for the class, so if you do go out to P://CIS/152-145 Java 2 /fall 2014 /in class. There's a folder with today's date on it right there, 9/16, and what's in there again is just the comment. Okay, so I already have that open on mine. There it is. I'm going to drop that comment on the top of my program at the beginning of my Joes file here. So now I've got that in there. All right. Cut this down a little bit so everything's visible. And I guess it doesn't copy real well as far as lining stuff up, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. So you've seen this before, because if you've had any class with me, you probably have built this before in at least one other language. So Joes Automotive performs the following routine maintenance services. So this is going to be what's in the routine panel. Does that make sense? There will be oil change, lube job, radiator flush, transmission flush, inspection, muffler replacement and tire rotation. Here are the associated costs. Joe also performs non-routine maintenance or routine services for parts and labor is $20 an hour. So do all that good stuff and create a Java GUI application that displays the total for a customer's visit to Joe's. Now, this is a good one to do because, believe it or not, even though it's going to seem like you're doing a lot of typing today, if we were doing a different program that had a really complex interface, or if we did the other interface that I showed you before with the different panels and the stuff was actually lined up, that'd be a lot of typing. All right. As it is, we'll do enough typing, but we're not doing boatloads of typing. All right. So I'm at the beginning here, and right underneath my package statement, so before my class line, I'm going to put in my import statements. All right. Everybody cool with where I am? No? Oh, I am. Okay, thank you. I'll put in all three of them then. That's good. Thank you. All right. So again, I'm right in between my package statement here and my class declaration. Okay? Line 29 on mine. And I'm going to import a few things. Oops, that wasn't good. That's called mistyping. first line is a mistake because it's java.awt.star. Sorry. That should dot star. There. Now all of the underlines should go away now. They'll be yellow because we haven't used those yet, but those should all be okay. Double check and make sure I turned the tape player on. I did. Good. All right, a couple things. If you're still typing, not a problem, but I just want to mention these to you. First, AWT, acronym, stands for Abstract Window Toolkit. All right, it's the old school way of doing GUIs. So why are we using it? Because it's got a lot of different stuff that's defined in it that we'll need for the program. The newer way of doing GUI programming is to use what's called swing. And one of the things that Java did was they created swing because of some of the problems, so to speak, with the AWT. We're going to get into this. I don't want to talk about it now. We're going to talk about it on Thursday. But you'll typically end up probably most often these three lines in lines 29, 30, and 32, you'll almost always import those if you're going to have a GUI program. Line 31 is because I want to be able to put stuff in dollars and cents. Okay, that's why that's in there. Now, just so you know, and please listen to this. You don't have to look at me, but please listen to this. You're going to have red all over the place when you type in this stuff, because what we're going to reference in this file is some of the stuff in the other two classes we haven't created yet. Does that make sense? So don't worry that it'll be red, because the stuff will eventually not be red. So don't let that bother you one way or the other. All right? So now I'm going to come in here, and under my class, the first thing I want to do is I want to create 5 different variables. This is way up above main and everything else. There's going to be quite a bit of typing we're going to do, and this main is going to be on the bottom. We'll do that last. All right, so literally I'm going to hit enter, just so you can't see that. So I hit it about, you don't have to do that, but I hit it about 10 times. All right. Oops, not routing, routine. Now, if you did not create those 2 other classes first, the non-routine panel.java and the routine panel.java, yours is probably very red. Since I created those 2 classes here, the routine and the non-routine, that's why right now it only shows as being underscore yellow, all right, because those have been created already. All right. And don't worry, again, a couple things, and you know this already. If I take my mouse, put it over here, you know, I start to get, I will get information about the different things that are here. And again, notice it says I'm not using it right now, so with a quick fix, I could remove it. That would make no sense. The other thing is, I think I've told you this already. And please listen to this. I think I told you this, but in case I haven't, let's just say You haven't put any of these in. None of them. All that stuff in blue is not there. Now you start typing. When you end up referencing that stuff, it's going to have the red squiggly on it. And when you put your mouse over it, it's going to say you need to import that. Do you want to import it? So some developers, when they use Eclipse, they do not even use their import statements. They let the system find them all for them. All right? I know what they are, so I put them in. All right? Hopefully everybody's been able to catch back up during that. So the first thing I'm going to do in here is I'm going to put in my constructor. We all know what that is. There are no parameters in the constructor. All right, in other words, it is a no arg or a parameterless instructor. So again, some of the stuff that we end up putting in here, you might say, I haven't seen that before. That's probably because you haven't seen that before. All right, and it's stuff that we're going to talk about on Thursday. So if it seems a little bit foreign to you right now, really and truly, don't let that worry you, because we'll be going over all this stuff between this Thursday and next Thursday. I would have no reason to think when we get all done with this that any of you will say, I like doing it this way, I like doing more typing. But if for some reason you want to do it that way, you can. I don't know why you'd want to, but if you did, you can. That's not a problem. All right? I'm going to give you a minute to catch up on this because I realize I skipped something, and I want everybody to get that. So as soon as I finish this line, I'm going to stop and let everybody catch back up. So I'll give you a second to catch up there. And those red squigglies are going to go away in a matter of minutes after we make one change that I forgot to make. We're doing the longest one first. This one is the longest one. This is the most typing you have to do. Just let me tell you, I'm going to move up for a second. I'll come right back down. But please, everybody, look up on here where it says public class right there. It should have said public class extends JFrame. All right. So please put that in. And notice when I put it in how the other stuff, the squigglies go away. See that? So right there where you've got public class, Joe's Automotive, add to that and the end extends JFrame. Should be able to move that up and still there. That's everything. It seems like a fine time to save too. We are basically going to do the equivalent of drawing this in a frame. And don't worry about what that means right now, because you do that a lot when you're doing GUI applications, and that's why we're extending JFrame right there. The other thing is, this literally will put a title in our title bar that's Joe's Automotive. That's what we want. And JFrames aren't smart. So what we're saying is that when we click the X button, we want the program to close. Okay? Again, we're going to be going over all that on Thursday. Okay? Now I'm not hearing a lot of typing, so my hope is that everybody is pretty much caught up. You at least put the extends J-frame in there so I can move that up to here. All right? And I put a lot of comments in here. Especially those of you who are for lack of better words, for those of you who are possibly a bit typing deficient, you might not be putting in the comments, and that's your call. That said, I'd recommend that you either put them in or you print this out when I get all done with it, because it is explaining what we're doing in each one of these steps. All right. Why do I have this build button panel, and why right now is that red? Because that's a method that we're going to create in here that hasn't been created yet. That's why it's, why we get the squigglies. And it says if I want, I can click here and it'll build it for me. I'll just do it myself later. Thank you. I'm going to move this up a bit. Hopefully this is where I stopped off on before, so hopefully everybody's up to that point. That's the end of our constructor right there. And again, don't worry that the add has got the squigglies. We haven't built this yet. We're going to build that next. And then a lot of the squigglies will start going away. All right? Now, I'm going to draw something, and I'm not smart enough, I don't think, to draw. Well, maybe I am. I don't know. But I'm going to draw something on the board. Okay, and I know that's not going to help people who are not here today, but I'll try to explain it to you. But I just want to show you this. So imagine, all I'm doing is I'm drawing a rectangle on the board. I'm drawing a big rectangle, okay? And I'm going to take that big rectangle and I'm going to split it like this. I've drawn lines around the big rectangle, so right now it sort of looks like almost like a picture frame. All right. The reason I'm doing that is I want you to understand when that code that is now on the screen there. That code. This is your north pane right here. On top, on the bottom is your south pane. All right. To your left, what is that? West is your west pane. Right is your east pane, and everything in the middle is called your center pane. So what we're doing is we're saying, okay, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to add a routine panel up here. Then we're saying we want to add a non-routine panel right here. And then on the bottom, we want to add a button panel. So what does that mean? That means in this particular example, we're not using west and we're not using east because we're not adding anything there. All right? So just so you know, and that's why I drew the picture. If we decide we're not going to use east and we're not going to use west, the way that this works, again, I'm telling you this, showing you this just so hopefully it'll make some sense to you, is the center panel is greedy. And what that means is the center panel will be happy to take up all of that room. See that? It's happy to do that. And it'll center itself, but it'll do it like that. This is one of the types of layouts that you can create in Java. It's called a border layout. So imagine that your screen is split, so along the top, if you drew a line underneath near the top, that's the north. If you drew a line up above the bottom, that's the south. If you drew another line, a vertical line to the left, that would be your west. One to the right would be your east, and everything that's left would be the center. You've been using a layout thus far. Even if you don't realize it, you've been using a layout. So you see, well, this is brand new. Not technically. You've been using a flow layout so far, which means go in a row-by-row order. So if you tell it to go and put 5 things on there, so this is your screen, and you tell it to put 5 things, it puts in number 1, number 2, number 3, it's out of room, so it starts on the next row. That's how stuff flows in Java by default, unless you tell it otherwise, as it has a flow layout. Here we're adding a border layout. Why? Just because stuff is able to be lined up a lot nicer that way, doing it that way. I don't have to worry so much about setting things up. So the question might arise, well, when we're doing our thing for that employee application, what kind of layout are we supposed to use? And in my typical smart-ass way, I say, yes, you pick one that looks good as far as you're concerned. All right? Again, we're going to write next the routine called BuildButtonPanel. When we do, a lot of the red stuff that's here will go away. All right? Also, I don't want to talk about the pack right now, but we will talk about it on Thursday. And, might sound real simple. Be amazed how many of you will forget this line. When you draw a GUI, by default, it's invisible. So you have to set the visibility to true, or you may not be able to see it. I've done that more than once when I finished a project, and it's like, why the hell am I not getting any output? It's because I never set visible equal to true, which is what that's doing. All right? So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to write the next method, and this method is going to be the BuildButtonPanel. Again, it has no parameters in it, so the BuildButtonPanel method creates a panel which contains buttons. Again, if you don't want to put in the comments, that's up to you. But I'm putting the comments in so ideally, you have some kind of an explanation of what's going on in here. This is a simple private void, and it's BuildButtonPanel. Now please look up on the screen here. Notice as soon as I put that in and I put in my curlies and hit enter, you see how that went away? All the squigglies underneath there went away because now we've got a routine that's called BuildButtonPanel. All right? Not sure why that one has got the underline and that one, these don't, but we're going to fix it anyway. I'm not worried about it at all. It'll all work out. All right? About, I don't know, 10 or 12 lines of code in here, so I'm up to here. I'm going to start typing. Again, I put in comments up to wazoo here. Create a button to calculate the charges. Now, if you look up here, this is how you make a button. calcButton equals new JButton calculate charges. And hopefully this makes sense to you. What this means right here in the parens is that's going to be the typing that's on the button. It's not the name of the button, it's the typing on the button. The name of the button is calcButton. All right? So, that's the first one. This is then this is new. When you do it like this, the system isn't smart enough to know that when you double click on a button to open up its click routine like we've had with that you have in .NET, that we've had with Visual Studio. It doesn't have the smartness built in. So you've got to build it in. You have to add what's called an action listener to the button. Now, this has got the squiggly underneath it because that hasn't been written yet. Okay? Now, if you don't look up on the screen here, notice this is called calcButton. No biggie right there. It's called calcButton. This can be called anything in the world we want. But since it's going to be a listener for a calcButton, it makes sense to call it calcButton listener. Okay? I mean, literally, Mike could have called it Mike. And the program would work fine. But it makes a lot of sense if it's calcButton that that's a calcButton listener. And these typically, since they're not variables, since these are routines, they typically start with an uppercase letter. That's why that's in uppercase and this is in lowercase. All right, now we're going to do almost the same thing. Because remember, we've got not just a calculate button, but we've got an exit button. So I'm going to copy. All right, so I'm going to say, create a button to exit program. And we'll call it exit button. And this will simply say exit. And so will that. So if you've done everything right so far, the only thing that's showing up here in red are these two add statements and these two calcButton listener and exit button listener. Okay? About 3 more lines, and then we're done with this particular routine. Put the buttons in their own panel. Constraints in there. That got put in there for me. Okay, so that's the end of that routine. We're about 2/3 done with this one. Okay? I would say that when we get through this whole thing, if you go, okay, we got it to work, I got mine to work, I don't have a flippin' clue as to what any of this means, here's an idea. Possibly open up your book and read chapter 12 before the lecture on Thursday. All right? We have to write the two listeners now. So we have to write the calcButton listener and the exit button listener. And then we have to just finish off main, and then we're done. Okay? So we'll do that, and we'll have that done before the break. Those of you who, again, who are a little typing deficient, it might be after the break. All right? But that's fun. So I'm putting these Java doc comments in, again, just for a little bit of clarity. So this is calcButton listener is called when calculate button clicked. Okay? I'm moving it up a little bit. Hopefully that's okay with everybody. Not a lot of code in here. Probably as many comments as there are code in here, as there is code. So some of this stuff, again, is going to look a little goofy because when you handle GUIs this way, we're going to, for maybe one of the first times, we're going to create a class within our class. We're going to create what's called an inner class. All right. Again, we'll go over that in much more depth and breadth of coverage on Thursday. All right. So we've got our calcButton listener, and as it says, it implements action listener. So if you notice up here, now that red calcButton listener is not red anymore. All right? But it's red down here because we haven't added the code yet to make it actually do something. That's what we're going to do right now. See how that went away now? No red squigglies under it anymore? Because we're starting to add the code that we need to add to make it do something. My hope is that everybody has all this stuff up until that button panel. So we're down here at the calcButton listener. All right? And again, right now when you look at this, these are underlined because we have not yet written our routine class and we haven't written our non-routine class. So as far as Java is concerned, get charges, those two don't exist right now. That's why it's giving you the error message. All right. There's a comment and then just one more line of code and then we're done with this. again, just because I'm a little lazy, I'm going to copy a bunch of this. Because the other one we have to create is our other button. All right. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to change that to exit. Exit button listener is called when the exit button is clicked. All right, so that'll be exit also. All right, action performed. This is real nice because it's a whole grand spanking total of one line of code. System dot exit 0. And what's left to do? Well, what's left? Remember this guy? Main? Probably be a good time to write that. That also is a total of one spanking line. That's it. Okay, so I did put a little comment here. The main method creates an instance of the Joes automotive class, causing it to display its window. There aren't any parameters in here. So I replaced that to-do line with a line that just says Joes automotive JS. I'm sorry, JA for Joes Automotive, equals new Joes Automotive. Another fine time probably to save. All right. That's it for the first class. So you notice right now we still have 4 errors and we have 6 warnings. And ideally, at least, all that stuff's going to go away when we write the other two, when we fill in the other 2 classes. Because we can. Because all it's doing is creating an instance of the object. Yeah, that's all it's doing. We literally could have our own main, you know, call it demo or whatever if we wanted to do that. All right. What this is basically going to do is, if you remember what this looked like, all right, this is literally going to end up drawing it for us. So on the screen, we're going to have in the middle, we'll have all the radio buttons basically that are going to have, do you want this option, this option, this option, and underneath it we'll have the stuff for parts and labor. And it'll put the 2 buttons in. That's what we're doing. All right. Not that this has nothing to do with the calculations or anything, but this has to do with building that. That's what this is doing. And again, quite often if you do have a main that's that small, you just put it in the major class. But, you know, because Zane's question's a good one. We could have taken this and we could have created another class and called it something like, you know, Joes Automotive Demo, and put it in there and called it that. It would have worked the same way. If you want to do that, you can, but you don't have to. All right, so very quickly, because I want to give you a break, is we came through here. We started here. There's our package. These are the things that we're importing. Again, lines 29, 30, and 32 are things that we import so we're able to do the GUI stuff. All right, line 31 is so we can have dollars and cents. And then we created our Joes Automotive class at the very top. There's the beginning of it right there, and if I look there and I go down to the bottom, that's the end of it right there. And the reason I'm telling you that is when you look, so we have a class here, public class Joe's Automotive, and you notice inside of here we have two other, there's one, and there's one. We've got two other classes, but you can have only one public class in any Java file. So we have two private classes nested within our public class. All right, those are called inner classes. Okay? And that's totally legit to do that. So we come through here, and this is going to allow us to create a routine panel, and I already showed you that over here. And the non-routine panel, this is going to be the panel that holds the buttons. This will be one of our buttons. This will be the other button. And you notice that the three lines, lines 38, 39, and 40, all start with J. Don't ask me why J, I guess for Java, but anytime you've got a thing that starts with J, that means you're using a swing component. So not only is there a J panel, there's a panel. Not only is there a J button, there's a button. The difference is, had we used just panels and buttons instead of J panels and J buttons, then we wouldn't have probably needed that line of code, the import statement, because that's allowing us to use the swing stuff. We're going to talk about swing a little bit on Thursday. So those are our variables. Then we're coming in here, and what we do next is basically, again, this is our constructor. So we're setting the title for our project. All right, we're telling it, because it's stupid, that we know that when it clicks the X, know to close itself. All right, then we're coming in and we're instantiating. Those two lines right there are going to create objects of that class and that class. Those two classes. That's what we're doing. And it's a routine panel. I mean, I could have called it routine panel and non-routine panel, but that seemed more than sufficient. All right. Then we're going to build the button panel. And basically, as it says, that's going to be the holder, even though it's invisible, so we can put our buttons in there. And the reason we're doing that basically is so that it lines up and it looks decent. That's why we're putting it into a panel. Then we have to add the stuff, as I showed you on the board before, to the respective areas in our border layout. All right. Then we pack and display. All right. And this is building that actual button palette or panel right there. So that's all that stuff that's in there is responsible for creating two little buttons, one that says calculate charges and one that says exit. That's what they're doing. All right. And since they're buttons and we want them to react to being clicked, we have to add action listeners. So for our calc button, we add the calc button listener. For our exit button, we add the exit button listener. All right. And then we add all of those to the particular panel. And then when we write our listener routines, this one literally is saying that when we click the charges button, we want you to go in there and every single non-routine charge that we have, all right, so parts, labor, etc., we want you to add all those up. And then all of the routine charges that we have, you know, that's all this stuff up here. So these are the routine charges, and those are the non-routine charges. So when we call that routine.getCharges, imagine that you came in there and you needed the works, so to speak. So you came in and you said, I want an oil change, a lube job, a radiator flush, a transmission flush, an inspection, a muffler replacement, and a tire rotation. Then it's going to add 26 and 18 and 30 and 80 and 15 and 120. I believe that's like $289. It's something like that. All right. Then we come down here and we say that you need 10 hours worth of maintenance. Again, I know the old joke, try to find a mechanic that'll work on your car for 20 bucks an hour. I realize it doesn't happen, but I just used what was in the book. Okay? So we're going to say that for those $10, or $20 rather an hour, for 10 hours, that's going to be an extra $200. And also, they charge for parts. And I don't think it had it in the comment, but I used it because we used it before. We'll add a 6% charge just on parts, or 6% tax, just on parts. All right? So that's everything that we've done thus far. So I'm going to save this, and I guess I have already, but when we come back, we're going to do first the routine panel. That's a little bit more typing, not a lot. I'm going to start typing it in, so by the time you come back from your break, you know, I'll have a screen full up there. All right, so it's 1:54. Let's take a break and come back, please, at 2:05.